Andy Chrisman of For Him has spent 40-plus years in Christian music, and chances are he knows your favorite artist personally. Now he's bringing you their stories.
I'm Andy Chrisman.
In his new podcast, 1 Degree of Andy, he sits down with the voices behind the songs for real, honest, and faith-filled conversations you won't hear anywhere else.
That's a great question.
If you love Christian music, this is your backstage pass.
The 1 Degree of Andy podcast.
Listen now to 1 Degree of Andy wherever you get your podcasts.
One of these men is a highly respected New York attorney, Lucas A. Ferrara. The other is a self-proclaimed man of the people, known as Mert Roberts. Their aim is to discuss the hottest issues impacting our city, state, and nation. Fasten your seatbelts. Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live, starts now on AM 970, The Answer.
That's an interesting one, Alex. What's that called?
All right, this one is Digital Disconnect by Chronic, we've heard from before.
Digital Disconnect. Well, let's talk about a sound you all know too well. A sound that follows you everywhere. A sound that's become the national soundtrack of anxiety. Yeah, that's it, that ping. Your phone lights up, your watch vibrates, your laptop chirps like a needy digital pet, and it's always the same message. Hey, quick question, can you take a look at this? Need this ASAP. It's 9:30 at night, you're on the couch, you're with your family, you're trying to breathe, but your job, your modern day, always on, always connected job, has followed you home like a stray dog that refuses to leave. Oh, there it goes again. So we're asking a question that is shaking workplaces around the world. Should Americans have the legal right to disconnect from work after hours? That's the question, Mert. What do you think?
Yeah, we already have the right. Just turn the phone off. That's all you got to do. Well, I'm scared my boss is going to say something bad. Trust me.
That's
turn
right.
it off and see what happens if you turn your phone off. See what happens. Nothing's going to happen. You know why? Because your boss doesn't want you blowing their phone up in the middle of the night either. I guarantee you, if you start sending your boss 2,500 emails every night, they'll be happy if you turn your phone off and won't send another email. So if you think that you're being mistreated, just dish it back out and see what the reaction is. Because people really trip me out with this type of stuff. I feel like there's no escape.
That's right.
I'm tethered. That's
right.
But you see people in their phones all the time. So why would they?
Well,
be
a lot of them are on their phones. They're playing games or whatever. I mean, we're talking about a different nuance, right? We're talking about the fact that there's no rest for the weary, and because of technology, here's another bad effect of technology. There's the expectation of 24/7 availability, particularly for professionals like doctors and lawyers and whatever. You know, clients expect you to be available when they decide they want to talk to you. There you go. There's a client right there.
Well, listen, I'm going to say that that's a product of competition. I'm not going to blame the technology.
Absolutely.
That's these eager beavers out here who are saying, hey, this guy, he's not taking your phone calls after 5 p.m.
Yeah, but you know what, Bert? No, it's not that simple. You're too young. But in the old days, there were, okay, you're too young. In the old days, there were these things called answering machines, Bert, and there was no way for people to get you or to forward or none of that nonsense. You left a message, and if it was a Friday and you called the office, the message would be recorded, and that's it. You didn't have to worry about it till Monday.
That's funny.
Right?
That's funny.
Now, the calls are transcribed, the calls are forwarded, and so if you dial my office number, it directs you to my cell phone. And if you leave a message, it sends me a transcript of the message. There is no rest for the weary. And that's
funny.
Is
you
part
think
of the
that I don't know? You think I've never used the answer machine? You know, answering machines still exist, right? You can still leave a message, and somebody could say, hey, that's my work phone. I don't answer it until it's work hours. So the same thing I just said a moment ago still applies. Now it's eager beavers like you, I'm using that term once again, who will say, I am going to read the message, or I'm going to answer or respond to the message on a Saturday night, 9 p.m.
Because it would be rude not to.
Oh, that's not true. It'd be rude to tell somebody that you're going to do that and not do it. But if you tell somebody, hey, 5 p.m., that's work hours. After that, you're going to have to wait until Monday morning.
Yeah, people don't appreciate that, Murray, particularly if you have a question, if you have a need, if you have a compelling question that you want answered, you're not going to appreciate someone telling you wait till Monday at 9:30.
Well, then I want people to have that same appreciation or understanding when their boss wants a response that can't wait until Monday. See, you can't have it both ways. Either you have an understanding of what the issues are or you don't. So if people are complaining about being on call 24/7, but you're making calls 24/7, I don't want to hear it. And Lucas, you sound like a guy who might be a 24/7 type of guy.
Unfortunately, I'm going to plead guilty to that. In fact, Mert, you have sent me messages 2:00 in the morning, and I have responded at 2:00 in the morning. So look who's talking about 24/7. Okay, you've sent messages at Bird Hour. Yeah,
well, I needed to pay off that parking ticket. I didn't know if you were going to send it.
We're not going to talk about your legal troubles on the air. You're going to have to sign the consent form before we talk about your criminal behavior. No, but seriously, you're missing my point. In the old days when there were just answering machines and no forwarding, you could hide. Now you could still use an answering machine, I get it, but you can't hide anymore. People know that the technology can forward.
And there's a perception that we all have our phones in our hands, so why not answer back?
So why you're not answering? That's right. And you know what, Mert, what's strange? I get emails 5:00 in the morning from some clients, right? Now, my first reaction is, what the, you know what? It's 5 a.m. But I wake up and they get an answer within 5 to 10 minutes, and they appreciate that. So it does help with bonding. It does help with business generation. But the problem is it doesn't give a person an opportunity to chill. I think it adds to stress, which is why other countries, by the way, have passed, like for France, for example, has passed a right to disconnect law. It went into effect back in 2017, and the French labor minister at the time said employees are not obliged to be constantly connected. The boundary between work and private life must be protected. So this is back in 2017 in France. Italy followed. Spain followed. Ireland issued a national code of practice. Portugal went even further, banning employers from contacting workers after hours except in emergencies. How do you like that? The Portugal labor minister at the time said, we cannot allow the digital age to erase the boundaries between work and life. Meantime, the United States, we're still arguing about it. What do you think?
Listen, I hear everything you're saying, but what I said still applies, and it applies even more to these other countries where I'm pretty sure these people over there are just as ambitious and anxious to get their little lives and whatever they deem is necessary at that moment to have all their pleasures and desires fulfilled in that instant. And this is what creates this type of culture. Earlier you said, well, I have this phone and it's constantly connected to me. There's people out there who have work cell phones, or they call them burner phones in some instances. And you can leave your phone in your house and take your personal cell phone.
Yes, that's right. I have a friend. I have a doctor friend. She has 2 phones. One's personal and one's work. And she'll leave the work phone home. And when she's out with her husband or friends, she only has her personal phone so that if her kids reach her or family members reach her, she's accessible. But I don't know. Some people may find that off-putting. Some people may find that off-putting.
If people weren't busy doing nefarious activities on their work phones, they wouldn't need to keep it on them 24 hours. You know that affair that you might be having, that's what you got on the work phone too.
Let's be honest, Bert. I think we have a culture where being reachable is treated as being loyal. That's the problem. And at 2023...
We have a culture where I want to DoorDash some McDonald's at 2 o'clock in the morning, so I'm going to get on my phone and I'm going to place an order, and it's going to be right on my doorsteps at 2 a.m.
By the way,
in the morning.
I've got food coming right after the show. I hear you. But a 2023 research study found that 28% of U.S. workers say they're expected to respond to messages outside of work hours. So about a third of workers are expected to be on call.
That's the graveyard shift, the regular shift, and the night shift. It makes sense. Somebody's always working in America and throughout the world for the most part. There's always somebody working. Yeah, you collect yourself. I got to
drink some water here. Go ahead.
There's always somebody working. So when you want to complain, you want to sit home and complain about, my boss is trying to reach me so they can ask me about something that's going to take place on Wednesday, and they want confirmation on Sunday night. Why are they doing this to me? Why don't they just wait till Monday? And you're the same person who's ordering DoorDash, or you're ordering an Uber. Somebody's working.
That's different than having to respond to the demands of work.
Listen, especially if you're a salaried employee, theoretically, you have to be in the office at a certain time. And the rest of the time, we need to be in constant communication because we're paying you this money for this reason. And people agree to this because at the beginning, you're just happy to have a job. You'll sign up for the constant communication, but you get a little stability, and then all of a sudden you want to act like this is too much.
Well, here's the catch. The American Psychological Association says that constant connectivity is associated with higher stress, poorer sleep, and increased burnout. Companies love it because it's free, Mert. It's invisible, it's uncounted, but you're not getting paid for that 5 a.m. email, and you're not being paid for that Sunday message. You're not being paid for that quick favor that eats into your evening, and yet you're expected to do it. So I think some people argue it is not fair, while some others, like employers in particular, say this is the ugly reality of today's business world. You got to be accessible.
Now, what if hourly employees said, well, why don't I just clock in to answer the email? Would they start asking questions about that?
Yeah, there, Mert. Why don't you charge for your time, Mert? What do you think?
Test it out and see what happens. If you need that job, see, this is the thing. You need the job, and at the same time, your boss is giving you an opportunity to step up or be available, and you could possibly move up for being available. Go ahead and take that risk. Go ahead and punch in, and you're not supposed to because you want to answer an email. That could be to the detriment of your job. So I'm going to say this. People want to advance and get paid more money, but they don't want to answer emails on their private time. People want more pay. They want better health care and all this stuff from their jobs. But the jobs is asking for more and more of their time, and they have a problem with that. The connection needs to be made, people. These companies are going to drain you to give you more. They're not going to give you more for doing less. That's not how things work. Everybody wants to be the best, but nobody's willing to put in the time or take the effort, or not take the effort, but put forth the effort to get there. This is the dark side of this argument. The dark side is people want more and more. People want more and more. That's why everything is 24/7 now. That's why we have access to all this stuff.
Well, I guess you're saying if you want more, you got to work more. If you want to be liked by your bosses and promoted, you have to be accessible. You have to make compromises. And to a certain degree, that makes sense.
And don't get upset when the person who would answer those emails gets the promotion, and you're sitting there like, wait a minute, well, what did I do wrong? And then you're going to go online and read up tips. How can I get a promotion? And they're going to tell you in this, be more involved at work. Answer that. Take some initiative. Be more available for your clients. They're going to tell you everything that's almost anti this message of turn off and disconnect.
That's right.
And that's going to be to the detriment of your progress. So if you want to be more valuable to people, you have to be more of a presence to people. And especially with these cell phones, that is definitely possible. And trust me, once somebody needs you, and you know this as a big time millionaire boss, Lucas, when people need you, they definitely will reach out at all types of times.
Okay, but I own the company, so as an owner of a company, I think the expectation is a little bit different. We're talking about employees, people that work for a company, and is it fair? By the way, Harvard Business Review put out an analysis, and it said as follows: technology has created an always-on culture that blurs the line between work and life, often to the detriment of employees. Now, you're going to like this. Let me read this. Here's the irony, Mert. Workers who disconnect actually perform better. See, this is making your argument, Merck. A study from the University of Illinois found that employees who detach from work after hours have higher productivity, better problem solving, lower turnover, and greater job satisfaction.
Well,
Isn't
you know
that
what?
Interesting. See,
you know what I'll say?
I just made the argument for you. Look at that.
Nope. I see right through those type of studies, because what that study is leaving out the type of person who would be willing to disconnect. These people are usually not afraid of what's going to happen if they don't respond to an email. See, there's a big difference between somebody who's uneasy and unsure of where they stand in a company, therefore they will continue to answer, versus somebody who has security or know they're in line for a big promotion, so they can puff their chest out and say, I'm going to turn off my phone and not respond. That little study is not taking that into account, and I see right through it.
Well, supporters say workers deserve boundaries, that mental health matters, family time matters, productivity improves when people rest. Other countries have done it successfully, detached from work. Now, opponents say it hurts business competitiveness, it limits flexibility, it's impossible to enforce, and it doesn't fit American work culture. But here's the truth. American work culture is breaking people, and broken people don't build strong companies. So I think that you're making a good point, Bert, and you're laughing. He's laughing, Alex.
Listen, what's the point of cable running 24 hours a day? Shouldn't we just go to sleep after 11 or midnight?
Oh, now you're confusing entertainment. That's entertainment. But what does that have to do with work and accessibility?
Well, think about it. Somebody has to be at that television station to make sure that none of that stuff goes offline.
But that's their job. Now you're combining all these different issues. Come on,
that's why when the night shift leaves in the morning, that you shouldn't really talk to them after that, because they've done their job. So,
well, that in a perfect world, that's how it go. But listen, people want stuff when they want it. So that means we have to live in a world where it's constant communication. If my cable goes out at midnight, I want to be able to call somebody or send an email to somebody to get it.
And there's somebody working at the cable company usually. I've done the same thing. So what's your point? That's their job, to be working from 11 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning. They're being paid to do that. That's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about you work your 9 to 5, and at 9 o'clock at night you're getting follow-up questions, or 5 o'clock in the morning you're getting follow-up questions. That's completely different, Mert.
No, it's
Why
not.
are you conflating?
No, because if the world decided to turn off at the same time...
Oh, that's what you're saying? Good luck with that. Look, should you have the legal right to ignore your boss after hours? Should your phone be allowed to rest when you do? Should your time, your precious, irreplaceable time, belong to you again? That's the question that we've been circling this entire time. If you don't claim that boundary now, who will claim it for you? And if you believe the answer is you, then just don't nod, Mert is saying. Speak up, push back, back. Demand the right to disconnect, because nothing changes until someone decides they're done being interrupted. Now, we have to interrupt that thought with an important announcement. You're listening to episode 96 of Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas Live. This is Lucas Ferrara. With me in the studio, located in the heart of Financial District, is my co-host Mert Roberts. Working the board is the great Alex Garrett, who's got a wonderful podcast, One Leg Up with Alex Garrett. Please check it out. When we come back, we'll be joined by Bill Eddy, a therapist, lawyer, and co-founder of High Conflict Institute, known for turning psychological insight into plain-spoken guidance. He's got a book out, Why We Elect Narcissists and Sociopaths. You can't wait to hear from him, so stay tuned. We'll be back right after these quick messages. And look, if you feel personally attacked, you're listening correctly.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 55 East 59th Street, New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
What does the perfect celebration look like? Great weather, great company, unforgettable views. Imagine your birthday, anniversary, or company party set against the iconic New York City skyline. Sound too good to be true? It's not. When the weather warms up, there's no better place to celebrate than on board the Atlantis yacht from New York Cruises. From intimate gatherings to full-scale corporate events, Atlantis Yacht is a premier floating venue offering a truly unique experience. Their dedicated team of hospitality professionals will help plan every detail so you can relax and enjoy the moment. Your guests will be wined and dined across the main deck, sky deck, and lounge deck, all featuring breathtaking 360-degree views of the Manhattan skyline. Birthdays, anniversaries, engagements, company parties, reunions, retirement celebrations. If there's a reason to celebrate, Atlantis Yacht is the place to do it. Call 212-633-1231, 212-633-1231, or visit NewYorkCruises.com.
Eye on Real Estate, New York's longest-running show on real estate, answers everyone's questions. From California to across the Atlantic in London.
It's actually Gateshead, a little bit away from London. I've been a huge fan of yours for many a year.
Dottie Herman and her expert team will help you through the ins and outs of property ownership.
We have great listeners, a great audience, and a great team of professionals.
Call 866-970-9622 with your question Saturday morning at 10 on AM 970, The Answer.
Hi, Kevin McCullough. If you travel a lot and you don't want to get stuck in a foreign hospital and you need to get home to a hospital at home just because you want to be there, travel insurance won't do that for you, but MedJet will. That's why I'm a member. And they're going to give away $2,026 in 2026 so that you can put a little money toward a dream trip and try them out. No purchase necessary to enter, but if you take a trip, you're going to want to get a MedJet membership. Go to thatkevinshow.com and click promotions to enter right now. Thatkevinshow.com. Click promotions.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
Whoa, that's intense, Alex. What's that one called?
All right, this is called Cinematic Conflict by Senor Musica 81.
Cinematic conflict. Great choice. Because our next guest confronts real-world conflict, Alex. Bill Eddy is a therapist, lawyer, and mediator, and the Chief Innovation Officer of the High Conflict Institute. For decades, he's helped professionals navigate the people who make conflict their full-time job. Oh, and we all know people this type. The blamers, the escalators, the personalities who turn every disagreement into a crisis. Almost sounds like Mert. Bill has trained thousands across 35 states and 12 countries, giving them practical tools to stay calm, to stay structured, and to stay out of the emotional quicksand. He teaches dispute resolution at Pepperdine and previously served on the faculty at Newcastle Law School in Australia, one of my favorite places. Bill has authored 20 books, including Why We Elect Narcissists and Sociopaths and How We Can Stop, a guide to understanding how high conflict personalities rise in public life and what we can do to limit their impact. Welcome to the program, Bill.
Thanks so much, Lucas. And
what a great title. So let's talk about something called the Fantasy Crisis Triad. Now, for Triad. I'm having problems today.
You cannot read today.
I cannot pronounce anything today.
You can't read for nothing today.
I've been messing up diplomacy, Bill. You know, you should hear this. Anyway, for listeners who are hearing this term for the first time, the Triad, Fantasy Crisis Triad, what exactly is that?
So it's three parts. The first part is there's a fantasy crisis, like, oh my goodness, there's this terrible crisis, but it's not real, or there's a problem, but it's not a crisis, and needs you take time and look at things. But in a fantasy crisis, it's like action. We have to go into action. A fantasy crisis always has a fantasy villain. This person is the cause of the terrible crisis. And then there's a fantasy hero, and that's the great leader, depending on who it is, what decade you're in, etc. And they have a fantasy solution, which turns into a real crisis. So the triad is the fantasy crisis, the fantasy villain, and the fantasy hero and their solution. And that's where the problem lies. And when we look at history, look at the present. We've got all these crises, and when there's a crisis, you give your power up to a leader. You say, okay, just tell me what to do. Most of the time, it's like, well, wait, I have an opinion, and wait, I want to hear what's really going on. But in a crisis, you just follow the leader, whatever they say. So that's why a fantasy crisis can give a leader so much power and turn into a real crisis.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask this real quick.
Watch the Murdinator. It's the Murdinator, Bill.
If I was a narcissist out there today, what would be that issue that I would take advantage of? And the only reason I'm saying this is because we want to watch out for that individual. I'm not saying that I'm the narcissist who's going to try to take advantage of that situation. But if I was one, what is the issue out there that you think would be a good one for a narcissist to try to exploit?
Well, it depends on what situation you're in. You're in a relationship, and they go, oh, there's a terrible crisis. Follow me. Fall in love with me. Do it my way. Don't think. Just follow me. If you're in the workplace, where we deal with a lot of conflicts, it's like, oh, I should be in charge. Do it my way. Follow me. And of course, in politics, it's the same thing. So it's not so much the issue as the setting you're in. Watch out for someone that says, oh, we're having a crisis, follow me. That's a warning sign.
So if I create a crisis, that's just as powerful as there actually being one. If I'm charismatic enough to make that crisis seem legitimate, this is what we have to watch out for. And this is why can you say that again, the term, the fancy term?
Fantasy Crisis Triad, because it has three parts.
Right, so I would use the Fantasy Crisis Triad.
I got you that time. Now it's you.
I'll get tongue-tied. So I would use that to try to worm my way in and gain power. That's what you're saying.
Exactly. That's how it works. And if you're charismatic enough, persuasive enough, people will be, oh my goodness, I better follow this guy because he has some inside information. So I don't know about a crisis, but he does, and we're about to go down, so I better follow him so that we survive or whatever it is. And
now, is that system,
history's got a lot of those.
Now, would you rather a charismatic system or a system where it's like the strongest warrior is the one in charge? Because I know this might be going off what you were talking about, but I'm just curious, like, what do you think would be a better approach then? Because I'm thinking, well, the guy who's the strongest or the fastest should be in charge, or the tallest, big, instead of the one who is the most charismatic. Because I think charisma can mean a lot of things. It can be somebody who's smart, funny, persuasive, and then they're able to, influence people, versus somebody who can just terrorize and gain power.
Well, yes and no. In other words, the strongest, biggest, best fighter might be great if there's a real crisis, and if the crisis needs someone that's strong and a fighter. So it might be a crisis that needs someone with special knowledge, like someone's having a heart attack. I don't care how big and strong somebody is, I want someone that knows what to do with a heart attack. And so that's, to me, if someone says, hey, I'm having a heart attack, go do this, this, and this, you're going to help them out. You're going to go do whatever they say, but you're going to go with someone with skills for the problem. But the thing is, the charismatic people say there's a problem when there isn't, because they want to gain power. And so they'll get everybody afraid, and then they'll go, follow me. We've got to go this way. The house is burning down, and so you have to follow me. And you go, wait a minute, I don't smell any smoke. Why am I following you down this alley?
You got any examples that you feel comfortable talking about while we're on the air? That people...
Well, I think of, the ones, the two quick come to mind about relevant to today, but from history, is I think about two wars, the war in Iraq and the war in Vietnam. Both of them were started based on a fantasy crisis. The war in Iraq, that there was, Saddam Hussein was gathering nuclear material, and then the Vietnam War, that our ships were being attacked in the Gulf of Tonkin. And so in those situations, we had leaders that said, there's a crisis, follow me, and everybody did for a while, but history shows us that actually those were a terrible decision, but we got persuaded, and it was people that should have known better because they had access to information, but they persuaded the rest of us. And so that's the historical examples I think of.
Now, Bill, I don't mean to put you in a spot. We have to take a break in about 3 minutes, but is President Trump guilty of using this script, in your opinion?
I think so with Iran, that's what we're seeing. And I think that's and he was overconfident, and he underestimated. He thought, well, they're losers. I'm real successful after kidnapping Maduro, so I'm on a high here. I'm going to go in there because in 2 weeks there's going to be a nuclear attack of some sort. And so I think the overconfidence is what gets these leaders. But what happens is it ends up turning into a real crisis. And that's one of the points I want to make. The fantasy crisis triad is built on a fantasy but becomes a real crisis, whether it's the workplace, a family, politics, etc. So we have to be able to ask questions and say, prove it to us that there's a crisis, and let's have a bunch of people make this decision instead of basically one person.
But didn't we ask for this by electing Trump? Yeah, didn't we basically ask for this? Because he's been coming up with this script about China, or you can pick an issue that he's used to try to immigration, to try to incite people to take action. But sometimes there's kernels of truth in the underlying script. No, for example, immigration going crazy. So I'm a little confused. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the thing is, when you think of a fantasy crisis, there might be a real problem, but it's not a crisis, so we need to take our time and sort it out and figure out what's really going on here, which could have been done with going into Iran, and which still needs to be done about immigration. We need a realistic, calm discussion rather than, oh my goodness, kind of approach where you follow one person's persuasion. We need a group discussion. That's why there's juries, because a group is better at figuring out mistakes than one person.
Amen. And Bill, let's hold that.
Big issue.
It is a big issue. Let's hold that thought because we have to take a quick commercial break, but have no fear. Bill Eddy will be rejoining us after these quick commercial messages. For more about Bill and his books, visit highconflictinstitute.com. You'll find his latest work, Why We Elect Narcissists and Sociopaths, on Amazon and wherever books are sold. So stick around. Bill Eddy joins us after the break, and don't worry, he promised not to diagnose anyone's narcissism on the air, I think. We'll be right back.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 55 East 59th Street, New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate. Hey, it's Joe Piscopo. You know, I love America, and I'm so excited to celebrate America's 250th. AM 970 has put together a really special event called Patriots, Pasta, and Piscopo, featuring yours truly and my dear friend Christopher Macchio, America's tenor. We're going to be live at Carmine's in their private room called the Sinatra Room. Doesn't get more old school New York than that. I'm telling you, this is going to be a special night of patriotism as we celebrate our great nation, our history, and our future. You don't want to miss it. It's happening at Carmine's in Times Square on Wednesday, June 24th. Seating is limited. Get your tickets now for Patriots, Pasta, and Piscopo with yours truly and Christopher Macchio. Portions of the proceeds will support the Equal First Aid charity, courtesy of LifeVac. Text CELEBRATE to 94878 or go to am970theanswer.com and click the banner for tickets. That's am970theanswer.com for Patriots, Pasta, and Piscopo.
We love bringing you products that improve your life. Well, this product can save your life or the life of those that we cherish the most, our youngest children. There are approximately 5,000 choking deaths in the U.S. each year. One child dies every 5 days from choking. Children under the age of 5 are most at risk. There is a solution. It's called LifeVac. Arthur Lee is the founder, CEO, and inventor of LifeVac. LifeVac is a simple rescue device that can change your child's life in a choking emergency. It's non-invasive and easy to use, and one kit fits the whole family. If you have a young child in your family, I strongly recommend you visit the LifeVac website at lifevac.net. That's LIFEVAC.net. Listen to Arthur's compelling story and view the videos demonstrating its ease of use. LifeVac works in 3 simple steps: place, push, and pull. The LifeVac device dislodges the obstruction and suctions out the food or object. It's that simple. LifeVac.net, made in the USA, and FDA registered.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
We have been speaking with Bill Eddy. He's a therapist, lawyer, mediator who spent decades decoding high-conflict personalities. He's here to explain why some leaders thrive on chaos and how the rest of us can stop getting played by it. For more info about Bill and his books, visit highconflictinstitute.com. You'll find his latest work, Why We Elect Narcissists and Sociopaths, and How We Can Stop, on Amazon and wherever books are sold. And we'll also have the links on our website, shakeitofflive.com. Now, Mert, did you want to ask a follow-up?
You know what? I think I want you to respond to this, Bill. I feel like we're kind of being groomed to take on the mentality of having to be charming and charismatic, because just think about the culture we live in. A lot of times decisions with our jobs or we get opportunities, they depend heavily on if we're likable. Not how good we are, if we're likable. Like when you go network and you want an opportunity, you have to have skills. You have to be charismatic to a certain degree. So do you feel like we've been conditioned to want to be as likable and flamboyant and charismatic as possible so that people like us and they want to be around us, and they might overlook if we're actually good at the job we're talking about, but they just like us?
Yeah, I think that's a real problem today because of having to make quick decisions about people. And one thing is, I think about 10% of people are high conflict people, often very charismatic, but see the world as adversarial, and so they're into conning people, persuading people, leading them on, when in fact we really do need to go, well, what's your information? Tell me some more information. What are your skills? Tell me what you're good at. Because one thing I've learned, especially as a mediator, a lawyer, and a therapist, is that a lot of people will come on strong, like they're really super wonderful people, and you go, wow, this person's incredible. They could be like my best friend. And then you find out under the surface is a bunch of trouble. And so a lot of what we do is help people look at, a lot of our consultations help people look at what's going on under the surface. And I think as a society today, especially with AI and everything else, we have to learn to have a healthy skepticism, so we don't just go with the likability, but we also ask questions. Tell me about your skills and show me some things. So I think it is a problem. I think, we do want to try to be likable, but I think that we also have to have better radar at getting an estimate of people, because the most persuasive people often aren't the people that you necessarily want to be persuaded by, if that makes sense.
Are these people grouped into your theory of master seducers? Is that what you're talking about? Because you talk about master seducers in the book. Or is that a different concept?
No, yes, very much so. And I see this in relationships. People that get, seduced into a relationship with someone that 6 months later turns out to be abusive and stuff like that, or someone in the workplace that kind of convinces everybody they're really skilled at something, and then when the going gets rough, you go, well, wait a minute, where's your skills? And you realize they didn't have skills, they were a good storyteller. And so we have to have a healthier skepticism nowadays than ever.
What about when everybody's in on it? Because I was just thinking about 2008 when the financial system collapsed, and a lot of people were inspired by that movie from the 80s, Wall Street, and everybody wanted to be Gordon Gekko, and then everybody kind of agreed we need to be as cutthroat and brutal as possible to make as much money as possible. So what about in those type of situations?
Yeah, I think we have to be careful who we give our money to. And the best example of 2008 was Bernie Madoff. And so he, what's interesting, I asked people, do you remember how Bernie Madoff got caught? Well, he didn't get caught. He confessed because the whole operation was about to crash. But he took people's money. He took people's retirement. He took billions of dollars, said, I'm going to invest these and give you the best return possible. But his best return was actually other people's money. And so he collected all this money. And one thing I really believe, he was good at persuading people. I believe his family didn't even know what he was doing. His wife divorced him after that, and one of his sons committed suicide. So he was really such a good kind of con artist that he could get billions of dollars, and yet nobody around him knew except the people that were part of that operation, which was just a small group in his company. But he's a perfect example, I think, of what I'm talking about. We have to have our eyes open more than ever in the past because people are skilled at conning us, at least a small percent of people.
Now, our producer-engineer Alex has a quick question for you, Bill. Go ahead, Alex.
I feel like the nation voted for, Trump because he was a tough talker and didn't really think about the 6 months. I mean, is that just a chasm of what happens on daily lives, that we just like the tough talk or the secure talk and then we don't really think about anything else down the road?
Yeah, it's very true. And let me get into a little bit about the brain. Tell me if I'm getting too deep into this. But basically, think about two parts of the brain. There's our logical part and there's our emotional part. And what happens when we get seduced as voters, as lovers, in the workplace, hiring people, is that our emotional brain gets the message, this is a cool, powerful, smart, wonderful person because of the story they tell us. And we kind of ignore our logical brain and the facts, and we say, I don't need facts. I already like this guy already. This is incredible. And that's what I think keeps happening. I think it's across the political universe. I don't think it's just one person, just Trump, but I think he's particularly good at the emotional story that then gets everyone to go, well, great, we'll just follow him, instead of going, well, wait a minute, is what he just said really true? Are we about to have an attack from Iran in the next 2 weeks? That's what he said, but the facts weren't there.
My friend, Bill, we're running out of time. If listeners take away one thing from your book about protecting democracy from high-conflict personalities, what would that be?
I think it's to have a healthy skepticism and always ask the question, is that really true? When someone starts telling you about a crisis, is that really a crisis? Is that really a fantasy villain? Is that really a fantasy hero? And is that solution really a good solution? Because often it's not. And that's the fantasy crisis triad. We have to have our radar out for, is this true? So I would say ask yourself that question and ask the person talking to you, dating, in the workplace, and when it comes time to vote.
But people hate to challenge, right? I mean, when it comes to the president, for example, because, just challenging someone is a form of conflict. No, Bill? So is it a no-win situation to challenge high-conflict individuals with conflict? If that makes sense?
I think we have to get better at that challenge. And that's one thing we teach, is to ask questions and have a healthy skepticism. So you're right. It's not comfortable, but I think we have to ask more questions and also just get information from a lot of different sources. Always check the news from more than one source. That's what I suggest. Read the news, listen to the news, watch the news, and then decide what you think.
So use multiple sources, not Fox or just CNN. Check around and try to formulate or try to find the truth. But you have to admit, Bill, as a lawyer and as an advocate and as a therapist, that truth is not always easy to ascertain, right?
Absolutely. But I think that the more you get from your variety of sources, you kind of land on more of a consensus of what is or isn't really going on. But always have that question, is this a crisis? Because if it's a problem to solve, then we're all going to work on this, and my opinion counts. If it's a crisis, I'll just follow the leader because I don't want to stay in a burning building.
Powerful.
Wow. Well, unfortunately, Bill, we've run out of time. That's our current crisis. But for more information about Bill and his books, visit highconflictinstitute.com, and you'll find his latest work, Why We Elect Narcissists and Sociopaths, and How We Can Stop, on Amazon and wherever books are sold. And we'll post the links on our website, shakeitofflive.com. Did I get that right, Bill?
You did. Thanks so much.
Thanks for coming on the program. We really appreciate it. Well, my friends, that concludes show number 96. May I hear an amen? Amen. Oh, special thanks to the Mertonator, Mert Roberts, my co-host. 96 amazing episodes. That's 192 hours of live entertainment. And if you think that's easy, you do it. And to the great Alex Garrett, thank you. Couldn't have done it without you. Check out his 5-star rated podcast, One Leg Up with Alex Garrett. And to everyone behind the scenes at AM 970, Laura Schaefer, Matthew Sample, and Joe Sabia, Frank Volpe, Ryan Pagano, and that's just a few of the many people. Oh, thank you. We love you. Before we go, I'd like to remind everyone to check out my movies. They're streaming everywhere. Manor of Darkness is the latest hit. New York Times suggests you check it out. It's available on all the streaming services. Manor of Darkness, a great time loop horror. And if you're listening to us live, Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates is up next. If you're a foodie or into the food business, stay tuned. I love her program. Join us next week. We'll have more controversial topics, more special guests just for you. Same time, same place. Ciao, ciao.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.
Andy Chrisman of For Him has spent 40-plus years in Christian music, and chances are he knows your favorite artist personally. Now he's bringing you their stories.
I'm Andy Chrisman.
In his new podcast, 1 Degree of Andy, he sits down with the voices behind the songs for real, honest, and faith-filled conversations you won't hear anywhere else.
That's a great question.
If you love Christian music, this is your backstage pass.
The 1 Degree of Andy podcast.
Listen now to 1 Degree of Andy wherever you get your podcasts.